A wide range of responses from around the world have been spurred by Iran's missile strike on Israel. The incident was condemned by the Secretary General of the United Nations, who also placed a call for a stop to the hostilities that have been taking place in the region. In addition to expressing their disapproval of the attack, the United States of America and the United Kingdom worked together with Israel to foil these missiles. Egypt and China both encouraged Iran to display moderation in their actions. This moment marks the first time that Iran has directly targeted Israel from within its own territory. Iran considers its animosity for Israel to be a basic element of the Islamic Revolution philosophy that was established in 1979. On the other hand, Iran's permanent representative to the United Nations declared that the drone and missile attacks were carried out in accordance with Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which addresses the lawful defense against Israeli aggression at diplomatic locations. Over 300 drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles were used by Iran to launch assaults against Israel on Saturday night. As claimed by a spokeswoman for the Israeli army, 100% of these missiles were shot down before they could reach their intended objectives. The Islamic Republic of Iran made the announcement on Saturday night that it had carried out attacks on targets in Israel utilizing a large number of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. Israeli airstrikes on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, the capital of Syria, sparked the first conflict between the two nations in the past 45 years. This is the first time that the two countries have come into conflict with one another. In a statement issued not long after these attacks, Iran's permanent representative to the United Nations referred to it as Tehran's military reaction in accordance with the United Nations Charter in order to legitimately defend its country. In retaliation to Israel's attack on diplomatic locations of this country in Damascus, Tehran reportedly carried out this move, as mentioned in the statement. Iran's military response was in accordance with Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which addresses justifiable defense in response to the Zionist regime's aggressions against our diplomatic premises in Damascus, according to the statement. It is possible to classify the situation as resolved. Iran's retaliation, on the other hand, will be far more severe in the event that the Israeli regime makes another mistake. The permanent representative of Iran to the United Nations issued a statement in which it urged the United States to take a step back from the conflict that is taking place between Tehran and Tel Aviv. This is a confrontation between Iran and the insubordinate Israeli regime, and the United States of America ought to stay away from it, the statement reads. After this strike, the spokesperson for the Israeli army, Daniel Hagari, stated that Iran had launched approximately 300 drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles into Israel, and that 99% of these missiles were intercepted before they reached their intended target. He disclosed that there was at least one military installation in the southern region of the country that was the target of an attack. However, this establishment did not sustain any significant damage. Iran is said to have fired 170 drones, 30 cruise missiles, and 120 ballistic missiles toward Israel, according to a spokesperson for the Israeli army. Some of these missiles originated from Yemen and Iraq. It was stressed by him that Iran has embarked on a highly risky operation that has the potential to increase tensions in the area. The Islamic Republic of Iran has launched 185 drones, 36 cruise missiles, and 110 surface-to-surface missiles towards Israel, the New York Times reported simultaneously, citing Israeli officials as the source of the information. In addition, the Israeli authorities have established that 32 individuals were injured as a direct result of the strikes that were carried out by Iran. An explosion took place in the Negev desert, according to Channel 24 TV in Israel, and a youngster who was 10 years old had serious injuries as a result of the incident. Iran's defensive position on its attacks on Israel. Iran's Minister of Defense, Mohammad Reza Gharieh Ashtiani, has issued a warning to the countries in the region, urging them to refrain from granting Israel access to their airspace facilities. He made the following statement: "We will respond in a decisive manner to any nation that chooses to open its airspace or territory for the purpose of attacking Iran toward Israel." According to the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this move is considered to be a lawful defense and retaliatory strike. Iran's armed forces have retaliated militarily to the assassination of Iranian military advisors who were legally invited by the Syrian government and were engaged in that country, according to Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, according to a news release issued by the Ministry of Defense of Iran. In the statement, it was highlighted that Tehran would take additional defensive steps to preserve its legitimate interests if it became necessary to protect them. In addition, the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, referred to the incidents involving the drones and missiles that were launched at Israel as legal defense, a deterrent, and in accordance with the United Nations Charter. According to what he said, any threat from any country's origin will result in an appropriate and severe response from the source of the threats. In the meantime, Mohammad Bagheri, the Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces, has declared that Iran's operation has come to an end, and there are no plans to continue it in the future. He continued to warn that Tehran's next operation will be more important if Israel takes any action against Iran or Iranian sites in Syria or any other country. He said this in conjunction with his previous warning: Israel's response to Iran's attacks. Following the missile strikes that Iran carried out against Israel, the Prime Minister and Defense Minister of Israel have both indicated that the confrontation has not yet come to an end. Benjamin Netanyahu highlighted that Israel will gain victory after facing Iran's rockets and drones. He said this in a statement, a message that said, "We have risen to the challenge and together we will prevail," was posted on his X page, which was formerly known as Twitter. Furthermore, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant declared in a video message that they were able to disable Iran's drones and missiles, but that this confrontation is not yet over because it is still ongoing. He made the following statement: "We, along with the United States of America and our other allies, have been successful in defending the territory of Israel. There was a negligible amount of harm done. This outcome is a direct consequence of the remarkable operation carried out by the Israeli army. There is still time left in the campaign. It is imperative that we maintain vigilance and be ready for any eventuality." In the meantime, Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, has issued a statement condemning Iran's attack on Israel and urging a stop to the ongoing hostilities. "I am deeply concerned about the very real danger of escalating destructive tensions in the region," he said. "I am deeply concerned about the matter. I strongly encourage all parties involved to exhibit the utmost levels of prudence in order to prevent any acts that might result in massive military confrontations on numerous fronts in the Middle East." U.S. reaction to Iran's drone and missile attacks on Israel. His vacation was abruptly cut short by Vice President Joe Biden of the United States of America in response to Iran's attack on Israel. He explicitly declared his support for Israel by calling a meeting of the National Security Council to take place in the White House. In addition, he announced that a summit with the heads of the G7 will be held in order to make a decision regarding the international diplomatic response to Iran's attack on Israel. The United States Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, has had 2 phone conversations with Yoav Gallant, the Israeli Defense Minister, in the aftermath of Iran's drone and missile attacks. During these conversations, the Secretary of Defense has emphasized the United States' unwavering support for Tel Aviv. These officials expressed their admiration for the defense measures that were deployed to intercept Iranian drones and missiles. the Department of Defense of the United States of America has encouraged Israel to provide Washington with information prior to taking action against Iran. As a result of the telephone conversation that took place between these two officials, the Israeli Ministry of Defense has issued a statement. In the conversation, the United States Secretary of Defense requested that his Israeli counterpart provide Washington with information regarding its intentions prior to any potential response to Iran. In addition, CNN said that Vice President Biden conveyed to Netanyahu the message that the United States would not take part in any war against Iran. Additionally, Biden acknowledged that Iran's onslaught on Israel was, for the most part, unsuccessful. With regard to the missiles and drones that were launched by Iran in the skies of Syria and Iraq, the United Kingdom Ministry of Defense has claimed that its planes were involved in the tracking process. In addition, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak, issued a vehement condemnation of Iran's attack on Israel using a drone and missiles, and he underscored that his country would continue to defend Israel. He called the attack reckless and reaffirmed Britain's commitment to defending the security of Israel and its other friends, including Iraq and Jordan. He also referred to the act as reckless. Mr. Sunak went on to say that Iran has made it clear that it intends to cause a crisis in the area. He placed a strong emphasis on the efforts being made to manage the situation in conjunction with other nations. EU response. In a statement released on Saturday evening, April 13th, the head of the European Union's foreign policy, Josep Borrell, referred to Iran's strike on Israel as unacceptable and strongly condemned it. According to him, this act puts the security of the region at jeopardy and significantly raises the tensions that are already present in the region. While this was going on, the foreign ministers of France and Italy both voiced their disapproval of this action. The attack that Iran launched on Israel was deemed unprecedented by the French Minister of Foreign Affairs, Stéphane Séjourné, who also condemned the attack. He underscored that his nation is completely united in its support of Israel. As far as he is concerned, Iran is allegedly taking a new step in its destabilizing actions and risks escalating military tensions. At the same time, Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani declared in a post on his X, previously Twitter, profile that his country is closely monitoring the situation following Iran's strike on Israel and is prepared to confront any scenario. Tajani had stated that his country is prepared to confront any situation. In a statement, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed that his government condemns Iran's assault to the fullest extent possible. In addition, he stated that Iran has put the area in danger of a full-scale war by launching this attack, which is both reckless and unjustifiable. According to the statement made by the German Chancellor, Iran has increased the likelihood of a full-scale conflict by launching this irresponsible and immoral attack. Israel is supported by Germany, which stands in solidarity with it. The most recent attack that Iran launched against Israel has elicited a variety of responses in both Iran and Afghanistan. Iran's strike on Israel has been applauded by some users of social media in Afghanistan, who have expressed their joy at the fact that they have finally been able to breathe a sigh of relief for the first time since Israel's murderous attacks on Gaza. On the other hand, there are many who are concerned about the escalation of the conflict in the region. In contrast, Iranian media outlets have reported on joyous celebrations that have taken place among groups of people in a variety of cities around the country of Iran through the posting of photos. Those who have taken to the streets appear to be pleased with Iran's onslaught on Israel, as evidenced by these photographs. An assessment of the content that is uploaded by Iranian users on social media continues to demonstrate that a significant number of Iranian citizens are concerned about the military confrontation that is taking place between Iran and Israel. This action has been referred to by a number of users as the beginning of World War III, and they have demanded that tensions be significantly reduced. As a result of this attack, a number of nations in the region ordered their nationals to refrain from flying to Iran and Israel and blocked their airspace to flights for a period of several hours. It should be brought to your attention that Iran's strike on Israel with a drone and missiles was a kind of retaliation. As part of its legal defense in accordance with the United Nations Charter, Iran has claimed that these attacks were taken out in retaliation to Israel's attack on its consulate in Damascus, which is the capital of Syria. In the meantime, China and Egypt have called for Iran to exercise self-control, paralleling the global condemnation of Iran's actions. The tensions between Azerbaijan and Armenia continue to simmer south of Ukraine. Azerbaijan launched an assault on the independent Republic of Artsakh in the previous year. By attempting to permanently eradicate the ethnic Armenian enclave with the assistance of Turkey and Israeli armaments, Azerbaijan was successful in forcing tens of thousands of inhabitants into neighboring countries. Additionally, Azerbaijan was able to do this. The South China Sea, which is located beyond the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean, is also rife with maritime violence. The United States of America, South Korea, Japan, and the Philippines are among the countries that China's naval vessels have come dangerously close to colliding with. It also makes frequent passes along Taiwan's boundaries. While everything is going on, the civil war in Myanmar is still going strong. North Korea is continuing its nuclear testing and the unannounced firing of ballistic missiles into the ocean on the Korean peninsula. Tensions are a constant background noise created by war games, military invasions, and incidents that occur over the border. South Korea is pointing the finger at North Korean technology that was utilized in Iranian missiles that were launched into Israel. Across the demilitarized zone, thousands of artillery batteries are staring each other down. Without a doubt, the United States of America and several other partners are engaged in operations on the ground. Despite the fact that we live in a world that is meant to be governed by international order, India and Pakistan continue to engage in conflict over their shared border, as they have done for decades. The conflict between India and China is yet another hotspot that, according to some, may be interpreted as the beginning of World War III, but it is actually already taking place. According to the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, there are active military forces, terrorists, militants, mercenaries, militias, bandits, pirates, and separatists in the African countries of Angola, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Ethiopia, Kenya, Madagascar, Mali, Mozambique, Niger, Rwanda, South Sudan, and Sudan. These countries are located in Africa. In the race for bases and influence, China and Russia are competing with one another. China already has a base in Djibouti. In the past 2 months, Rwandan armed forces have struck targets in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. While Morocco has undertaken drone strikes on Polisario rebels near the border with Western Sahara. Russia's Wagner Group is active in Africa and participating in battle. The United States of America, France, and the United Kingdom have been engaged in extensive yet covert warfare on the African continent, ostensibly against Islamic terrorists. However, the entire continent is in flames, and neither of these countries can claim any long-term victories on the dual fronts of counter-terrorism and peacekeeping. Americans who are stationed in Niger are unable to leave the country because the junta that is trained by the United States government argues that the United States presence is unlawful. Since several years ago, the United States of America has been conducting bombing operations against targets in Somalia. Additionally, the African Union mission in Somalia has been actively engaged in the fight against al-Shabaab. Despite the fact that Guyana's neighbor Venezuela is eagerly eyeing its oil reserves, the United States military continues to spread out across Latin America and the Caribbean. They are using missile cruisers to intercept drug-smuggling submarines, sending marine anti-terrorism teams into a Haiti that has been completely destabilized, and expediting the export of helicopters, aircraft, and naval drones to Guyana. In an effort to halt the flow of migrants and drugs across the southern border of the United States, senior officials in the administration of Vice President Joe Biden have considered the possibility of sending United States troops into the Darien Gap, which is a dangerous stretch of jungle that connects South and Central America. And in the past few years, what exactly has happened to the concept of neutrality? The armaments that Ukraine has received have come from Switzerland and Austria. NATO has welcomed Sweden and Finland as members. Even though Iceland is a very active member of NATO and Panama is a close military ally of the United States, the only countries that do not have regular armed forces are Vanuatu, Mauritius, Costa Rica, and Iceland. Vanuatu is also a member of the United Nations Security Council. When we talk about little countries taking on large fights, we should mention that Fiji and Luxembourg are both part of the global coalition that is working to end the presence of ISIS. A worldwide picture that is overwhelming is painted by ubiquitous warfare, which is our World War III. This leaves little room for the imagination to conceive that something can be done to address the situation. Moreover, it is difficult to avoid the conclusion that the superpowers and the community of national security experts are not content with the current state of affairs in some way. On the other hand, much like with addiction, the first step toward recovery is acknowledging that you have a problem, or in this case, a widespread conflict.